Hello, this is the interpreter. Let's see.
Hello.
Oh, wait, it was on or not? Hmm. Um, not sure. Hi, Regina.
Hello. My headphones aren't working.
Hmm. No? Hmm. Okay. Wait. Oh, that's what's going on. No. Oh,
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Hayward City Council meeting. Welcome to City Hall and welcome to the Hayward City Council meeting, October 10th, 2023, and it is 7:05 p.m. I apologize for the slight delay. Wanted to welcome everybody. I see some new faces and some returning faces. And, got to give a big shout out to my Hayward High farmers. Go farmers. Absolutely. Before we get started, I'd like to ask Councilmember Goldstein if he can start us off with a pledge of allegiance.
Sure. Please stand if you are able and face the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Madam City Clerk, if you can take roll call.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Councilmember Andrews. Present. Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Present.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Present.
Councilmember Broach.
Present.
Councilmember Syrup.
Present.
Councilmember Cermeño. Mayor Salinas.
Present. Thank you. Before we get started, and I should have, before we get started, we have a special presentation for today. Today, the city of Hayward is acknowledging, I get my other sheet of paper here, okay. Today, we are acknowledging Indigenous Peoples Day. And before we get started, I wanted to open up my computer here. And before we get started, I would like to start today's meeting with a land acknowledgement. Today, we acknowledge the land and the peoples to whom this land belongs. This is Ohlone land, and they are still here. We stand in solidarity with all Indigenous people and their right to self-determination and justice. We commit to working towards the healing and the healing of the generational trauma, theft, and disposition of Native peoples have faced and continue to face. So thank you. I'd like to now proceed with a proclamation. And I know we do have representatives here from the Ohlone Muwekma tribe. Are
Mayor
they here?
Salinas,
Yes,
my apologies. Would you like to do the closed session announcement before?
absolutely. I'd like to do the closed session announcement
All right.
before we get started.
Thank you.
Proceed. Mr. City Attorney, do we have a closed session announcement?
Thank you, I do. The council convened in closed session at 5:30 today pursuant to posted notice in the Brown Act. And with all members present and no public speakers, the council considered the following matters. 1, anticipated litigation. The council discussed one matter and took no reportable action. 2, the council discussed 3 matters agendized as pending litigation. The case is known as Mitchell Engineering versus the city, Rowe versus the city, and the city of Hayward versus the county of Alameda. And the council took no reportable action. The closed session adjourned at 6:55 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now we can proceed to the special presentation. We have representatives here from the Ohlone Muwekma Indian tribe. Okay, perfect. And can you tell me which one? Are you Monica? Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, you're on the top of the list. Monica Ariano is here from the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. She's the vice chairman of the tribe. And we have a proclamation to present to you. What I'm going to do is I'll read the proclamation and then we'll walk around and I'll give you this beautiful proclamation and then we'll take a picture and then you can have a moment to have a few words. Mayor Pro Tem, can you hold this? Thank you. So this is the City of Hayward proclamation for Indigenous Peoples Day. Whereas the City Council of the City of Hayward recognizes that the lands now known as the Americas have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples for over 10,000 years. And whereas the City of Hayward is built upon an unceded ancestral homelands of the Ohlone people who were based upon the unratified California treaties of 1851 to 1852. The Aboriginal owners of these lands we now cherish. And whereas October 12th, 1492 and July 1st, 1769, the day Governor Don Gaspar de Portola proclaimed Alta California as a territory of Spain are 2 of the most significant historical dates for all Indigenous people of the Americas and California, as they mark the beginning of European and American colonialism, which included widespread violence, missionization, forced relocations, land disposition, cultural suppression, assimilation, and termination policies that forever changed Indigenous lives and culture. And whereas government entities and public institutions today have a responsibility to enact policies to oppose systemic racism and diaspora towards Indigenous people in the United States, as discrimination perpetuates high rates of poverty, marginalization, disenfranchisement, and disproportionate health, education, and social crises. And whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations sponsored International Conference of Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas. And whereas recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day on the second Monday of October provides a more accurate representation of our nations and regions' diverse history and transforms a celebration of conquest and cultural genocide into a celebration of the enduring traditions, values, and strength of Indigenous peoples, and brings hope for a brighter future of respect, partnership, unity, and reaffirmation of the many California Indian tribes, such as the Muwekma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. And whereas Native Americans have honorably served in the United States Armed Forces since the American Revolution, and the Muwekma Ohlone men and later women have served as combat servicemen in the National Guard, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, prior to and during America's entrance into World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, and are still serving today. Whereas over 200 cities, counties, states, and universities across the United States have officially adopted Indigenous Peoples Day. Now, therefore, I, Mark Salinas, Mayor of Hayward, do hereby proclaim the second Monday of October, October 9th, 2023, as Indigenous Peoples Day. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give this a big round of applause. Red means on.
Okay.
Red means on.
Okay.
Jose Tuhi, Ganakraka, Monica Villariano, Wetchers Kuchus, Muwekma Ohlone Tribe, San Francisco Bay Area, Tak. I greet you in our native Chochenyo language. I'm Monica Villariano, Vice Chairwoman for the Muwekma Ohlone Tribe. With me today is my son, Lucas Tuheste. Maki mak Muwekma Bulbulam, Akoy Makware, Mani Makisui. We are Muwekma Ohlone. Welcome to our ancestral homeland. Makishwashe Makinan Rocket. Thank you for acknowledging Indigenous Peoples Day. This is a very special day for our people. Every day is Indigenous People Day for us, but this is a day we get to share with the public what it means to us to be Indigenous people, and to have it recognized by the city of Hayward is very special for us. In our language, we say Alshi Muwekma Ituhi. That means Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. So Makishwashe Makinan. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for that. Next, I'd like to proceed with public comments. And the city council welcomes comments, including criticism about the policies, procedures, programs, or services of the city, or of the acts or omissions of the city council. Speakers shall not use threatening, profane, or abusive language which disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of a city council meeting. The city is committed to maintaining a workplace free of unlawful harassment and is mindful that city staff regularly attend city council meetings. Discriminatory statements or conduct that is hostile, intimidating, oppressive, or abusive is disruptive to the meeting and will not be tolerated. and I have instructed the city clerk to mute and/or remove any speaker that does not abide by these policies. And so with that, I'd like to proceed with public comments. And we have 2 hands raised online, and we have 2 speakers here in the audience. So what I will do, since I recognize one of the names online, I'll start online first with, I believe it's Alameda County Supervisor of District 2, Supervisor Elisa Marquez.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council members, city staff, and members of the public. I am calling in tonight to invite everybody to a community meeting that is going to take place on Monday, October 16th at 5 p.m. at our Hayward Library at 888 C Street. This meeting is to discuss a possible regional bond that will be placed on the ballot in November of 2024. This bond will provide billions of dollars for the construction of an estimated 45,000 affordable homes, serving over 500,000 residents and in the upcoming decades. This measure will raise billions for preservation of existing affordable housing and ensure protection for at-risk tenants. General obligation bonds are funded through property taxes. A $10 billion bond would place a tax of $10.25 on $100,000 in assessed value, or about $100 per $1 million home. So we invite the public to come out on Monday, October 16th at 5 p.m. I will forward the flyer to the clerk this evening to pass along to all of you. I request that you please share this on social media. As you know, we're all trying to tackle the affordable housing crisis throughout the region, and we really want to hear the public's thoughts and ideas. For more information, you can contact my office at 510-272-6692. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Supervisor Marquez for her work in the affordable housing space. Not only has she been a clear voice up here on the council when she was here on the city council, she has taken that voice and has represented our city and the district quite proficiently. And the prospects of building 45,000 new affordable homes in the coming future would certainly change the game in the housing space in this region in the county. So thank you very much for that, Supervisor Marquez. I'd like to proceed with TJ from Hayward Concerned Citizens.
Thanks. Hi, I'm TJ with Hayward Concerned Citizens. Just another little plug on behalf of our group to please consider opening up a work session on the benefits of bringing red light cameras back to Hayward. In the past couple of days, I've witnessed about 10 red light runners in our city alone, just traveling through it. The camera program was disbanded in 2013 for a couple of reasons, but the main one given by council was that the police themselves would do a better job through regular patrols and being a presence at the problem intersections. We have fewer police beats in Hayward now than since 2013, and they can't all cover all these areas. Chris Pena, our Hayward resident, lost his life over this issue. Please let us bring some good to our community, worry less about the rights of lawbreakers, and focus more where it counts, keeping our residents as safe on our streets as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, TJ. I'm going to, I do see another hand here, but I'd like to move now to Ms. Peggy Guernsey here in the chamber.
Good evening, council members. And tonight, I'm just here in public comments to say thank you for being here for another year and opening up that, you know, we've got another year ahead of us. We've got funding problems, tax problems, cracks in our road problems, but You guys have stepped up to be here, and I appreciate you and the staff you've hired to do it. I want you to know I thank you. In the past, I'll say stuff that I don't like, and I'll let you know when you're doing good stuff too. And being here tonight is a good thing. And I want to thank you all for it.
Thank you. You guys can clap for that. I mean, she just congratulated us. We don't get congratulated often, so I feel, that's a good thing. Thank you for those kind words. Mr. Wesley.
This on? All right, okay. Hi. First off, I would like to say good morning. Good morning, good evening. How y'all doing? First thing is DTR for Hayward High is this weekend. We would love for either one of you Hayward High alums, if you can attend or even be a part of the parade or be a judge for the flow sites. I'm pretty sure Mr. Mayor Salinas knows about DTR, and we would appreciate it if you guys can show up. Either one of y'all to show up at the parade. We'll probably be down here at like 1:20 to 1:30. We're gonna cross like right on this street right here. And I have a few more questions. This is for young actors. We would like some type of space or like a building where young actors or even actors who are older can like showcase what they're good at or showcase what they like a script or a playwright, where they can perform in front and create a community of young actors that is healthy for us to like prosper, maybe go into Hollywood. And another question I have is for Hayward High is me and my peers are going on a trip to Scotland, Edinburgh. This is for theater, of course. We would like help with fundraising in some type of capacity so we can help get us to Scotland, whether that be you guys contact with the school or like with the theater teacher itself. We would like some help and some type of like resources or like even like help us create an event to where we can fundraise to help me and my peers make it to Scotland and perform on the Shakespeare stage. Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't catch the date. When's DTR? This Friday? So DTR, for those who are non-Hayward High alum, Councilmember Bonilla, it's downtown rally. It's, homecoming. Yeah, it's a big parade. and it's usually at 12 o'clock, right? 12 o'clock, yeah. And actually it's quite nice if if you're hanging out on Friday afternoon, it's always good to get a street side seat at like Buffalo Bills or at Casa del Toro at Metro. You can sit, have lunch on the sidewalk and watch the parade go by. And you can at Rocket Burger and you can and sometime between now and Friday, you can go to the Hayward High field and purchase your Hayward High swag, for $15.99 a t-shirt. I'm just saying. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Next, I have South Hayward Aurora now.
Yeah, hi, could you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to first say thank you for allowing me to speak. I do want to echo the kind lady's words about the work you guys do here. I don't think you guys are appreciated enough in person, so I just want to echo her words and say that we appreciate you guys being there every week and all the work you do behind the scenes. So I just wanted to make sure I got that out. A couple of other things. I just wanted to make comment about the St. Regis. We had attempted to have meetings over the summer with Bax and with the city. Unfortunately, for different reasons, we weren't able to get together to talk. I apologize. There's a couple of meetings I wasn't able to make. But we are definitely still concerned about the project. We are in support of the project. However, we feel that there are needs that need to be answered in terms of how the project is going to conspire. So enough of that. I also wanted to echo TJ's words about well, she brought up about bringing back traffic lights. On a similar topic, we've noticed that a lot of the city's traffic lights are no longer automatic, or if they are, they sit for a minute, like 30, 45 seconds to a minute with no traffic passing while the opposite direction is backed up. I know that that's something that we can contact directly the engineering department, I believe, or in the city, but I did want to just mention that to folks, that if you do see that, to please call the city and have them correct those lights. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I do not see any more hands up, so I'd like to close public comments and move on to city manager's comments. And I don't think I've ever passed it over to the city manager with so many congratulatory comments and public comments. Can you imagine that?
I'm just going to sit here and enjoy those lovely comments and thank everyone. Our city staff works very hard and we try to be as responsive as possible to the community. So it is nice to get acknowledgement every now and again. So I don't have any other comments other than to say thank you. And, you know, we're all here to support this community and in making it a better place for all of us. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Next is our action items, and moving on to our consent calendar. And Councilmember Syrup, I believe, has asked to be recognized. Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to pull one briefly and offer an amendment. In either of my two comments, I stated that I was opposed to there being any sideshow activity in residential neighborhoods, and I just want that reflected in the minutes. And so I'm happy to move the items with that amendment.
In terms of process, I don't think it's an amendment. We can just do a simple edit, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we can do a simple edit. Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem Andrews.
And same with my comments, just making sure that was noted that there was a change.
Oh.
Yes,
Okay.
there was a memo that was distributed for that one. Right
Okay.
before.
Thank
closed
you.
session.
Okay. And
So I moved the items.
okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
I'll second the movement of it.
Moved by Councilmember Syrup with the edits, seconded by Councilmember Roach. Wait a minute, did I miss public comments? No. Did I miss public comments on that one? Yes, I should have done public comments. Okay, so before we get the motion, do we have public comments from anyone online or in the chambers regarding the minute or regarding the consent calendar? Seeing none, close public comments, return back to the council, moved by Councilmember Syrup with the edits, seconded by Councilmember Roach. Madam City Clerk, if you can take the roll.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Yes.
Councilmember Roach.
Yes.
Councilmember Syrup.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño. Mayor Salinas.
Yes, and it unanimously passes. Thank you. Next, we have a public hearing on it's item number 4. It's the a public hearing on the sidewalk vendor program. Introduce an ordinance related to text amendments to the Hayward Municipal Code and the Traffic Code, and adopt a resolution supporting the proposed text amendments to establish regulations and guidelines for sidewalk vendors in the city of Hayward, consistent with SB 946, the quote, the Safe Sidewalk Vending Act, end of quote, of the state of California, and finding that the action is exempt from CEQA review. And I believe before I kick this off to our Director of Development Services, Madam City Clerk, I know that you have a statement to read.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for the opportunity. We are providing interpretation service in Spanish for this item via Zoom and also in conference room 2A. Since we are going to, and I don't know if you could see my screen. I'm projecting my screen. I know Zoom panelists can see it, but it's not up there yet. If you could, thank you very much. So, so this is how the service works. Individuals via Zoom who have joined a Zoom will need to locate the meeting control and select the interpretation option as shown on screen. Once they select the interpretation language, they will need to select either English or Spanish. So individuals connected via Zoom will need to select either English or Spanish to be able to hear the rest of the meeting. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and actually make the announcement in Spanish, if you would allow me. A las personas que nos están acompañando esta tarde aquí en este lugar del Consejo, tenemos el servicio de interpretación en la sala número 2A que está afuera. Si ustedes van hacia la derecha, ahí vamos a ofrecer la interpretación en español. A las personas que nos están acompañando mediante Zoom, necesitarán seleccionar la interpretación, el globo de interpretación y luego español para poder escuchar a la persona que va a interpretar. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Mayor. I will now go ahead and start the interpretation for us. Here we go.
Okay.
And we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I'd like to pass this over to, and then we're going to pass it over to other planners. And I apologize if you don't have your name tags in front of you, but I'm sure you will introduce yourselves when you come up. So, so go right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Salinas. Good evening, Mayor Salinas and council members. I am Rosalind Thompson, Senior Planner with the Planning Division. Along with me is Dulce Ochoa, Assistant Planner, also in the Planning Division. Before you, for your consideration, is the Sidewalk Vendor Ordinance. In this presentation, we will be providing a project background, give an overview of the Senate Bill SB 946, or the Safe Sidewalk Vending Act, summarize the outreach efforts over the course of the project, and highlight the amendments to the municipal code and also the new permitting process. As for the project background, in 2019, the City Council adopted its strategic roadmap priorities. And one of the priorities identified was to develop a sidewalk vendor ordinance that aligns with SB 946. Grow the Economy was adopted as one of the 6 strategic priorities in fiscal year 2021 to 2023 strategic roadmap. Invest in programs that support Hayward business and workers was included as one of the 5 projects identified under Grow the Economy priority. The Sidewalk Vendor Ordinance was included as one of those programs.
Good evening. As Rosalind mentioned, my name is Dulce and I will be providing a brief overview of Senate Bill 946, also known as the Safe Sidewalk Vending Act. SB 946 became effective on January 1st, 2019 and decriminalized sidewalk vending statewide and placed limitations on local jurisdictions' authority to regulate sidewalk vending. The intent of SB 946 is to promote entrepreneurship and economic development opportunities to low-income and immigrant communities, increase access to culturally significant foods and merchandise, and contribute to safer and more dynamic public spaces. It preempts any conflicting local regulations and requires any local regulation of sidewalk vending to be consistent with SB 946. Now I'll walk us through our outreach efforts. So back in December 2022, city staff held an informal listening session with business owners, And from February to May 2023, internal and external stakeholder meetings were conducted with street vendors, business owners, and city departments and divisions, and various agencies, including Alameda County Department of Environmental Health, Hayward Unified School District, and the Farmers Market. During this time, the project webpage and email address were also launched. Between March and May 2023, city staff reviewed sidewalk vending ordinances from 18 jurisdictions and conducted an online survey which received 1,565 responses. In April 2023, sidewalk vendors were canvassed and all expressed a lack of awareness of a Safe Sidewalk Vending Act and willingness to obtain permits with support, requesting information be made available in other languages and addressing cost barriers. Also in April, city staff met with the Council Economic Development Committee, CEDC, which expressed support for limiting vendor hours and requiring liability insurance. CEDC also favored an education-focused approach to enforcement. In June 2023, city staff met with AC Transit, Alameda Contra Costa Transit District, and a work session was held with City Council on the sidewalk vendor ordinance, which provided feedback and direction on the recommended locational and operational requirements. This brings us to today's City Council meeting for the introduction of the sidewalk vendor ordinance. Next steps include ordinance adoption and an implementation of a sidewalk vendor program in fall 2023. Now I'll pass it back to Rosalind to go over the draft ordinance and amendments.
Thank you, Dulce. The ordinance amends several sections of the municipal code. The amendment of section 3-5.13, use of sidewalks for outdoor dining, sales of and food preparation, would eliminate the requirement for authorization from the city for sidewalk vendors to sell merchandise or prepare food along the sidewalk. Instead, regulations related to sidewalk vending will be governed by the new Chapter 6, Article 16 of the Municipal Code. Second, Section 3-514, sidewalk vending, is added to make permissible a push cart, stand, display, pedal-driven cart, wagon, showcase, rack, or other non-motorized conveyance used by a sidewalk vendor for vending activities on a sidewalk. Further, this section will refer to the new Chapter 6, Article 16 of the Municipal Code for permissible locations for sidewalk vending. The definition section of the aggressive solicitation ordinance would be amended to expressly exclude sidewalk vendors. Section 6-2.01, hand cart sales prohibited, will be repealed, as a hand cart is a type of vehicle moved by human power, which directly conflicts with SB 946. Chapter 6, Article 16, sidewalk vendors, is added to provide a comprehensive framework for the regulation of sidewalk vendors within the city, which includes the requirement to obtain a sidewalk vending permit. Section 8-1.84, peddlers, is amended to exclude sidewalk vendors from consideration under the section. Language has been added to state that this section does not apply to sidewalk vendors governed by Chapter 6, Article 16 of the Municipal Code. Section 10-1.2735 M3 of the zoning ordinance is amended to clarify that these regulations apply to vending on private property only and distinguish food vendors from sidewalk vendors. Further language has been added to expressly exclude sidewalk vendors governed by Chapter 6, Article 16 from the food vendor regulations. Last, Section 6.24 of the Traffic Code, selling merchandise on city property, would be amended to clarify that permits for vending on a city sidewalk shall be exclusively issued pursuant to sidewalk vending ordinance in Chapter 6, Article 16 of the Municipal Code. As for the permitting process, a sidewalk vending permit must be obtained prior to any vending on sidewalks. As the permitting process entails a simple verification ensuring that sidewalk vending permit application is complete, including the mobile food facility permit issued by the Alameda County Department of Environmental Health, or ACDEH, staff concludes that there will not be significant time needed to administer the program, and as such is recommending that any potential fee be waived at the present time. Staff will track the number of permits issued annually and the amount of staff time needed to administer the program and, if necessary, may propose a permit fee at some point in the future if supported. Second, sidewalk vendors must apply for a business license and pay the fee of $137. Third, a copy of a comprehensive general liability insurance policy will be required in an amount to be determined by the city attorney. Finally, if a sidewalk vendor is selling food, then a copy of the mobile food facility permit issued by ACDEH is required. To note, mobile food facility permits issued by the ACDEH demonstrates compliance with California Health and Safety Code. The ACDEH is responsible for enforcing any violation of the California Health and Safety Code. Staff recommends that the City Council adopts a resolution supporting the proposed amendments to the Hayward Municipal Code and introduces an ordinance amending the Hayward Municipal Code regulating sidewalk vendors. That concludes staff's presentation on this item, and we are available for any questions that the council may have.
Okay. And, I apologize, Ms. Thompson. Yes, you've been before us before. So, and also you, Ms. Ochoa. So thank you for being here. Before I open up for questions from council, I want to sort of set up the context about this issue, because I know over the last couple of weeks, I've received some emails, and I wanted to clarify some things before we sort of get started. We've been hearing this issue for several months now, and if not, I think probably a little over a year, I believe, that vendors and local businesses have come to us and wanted us to take this on. That's one of the reasons why we actually put this on our priorities list. And so, I want to sort of mention and just sort of state for the record that of all these meetings, and I've had conversations with the council over the years, over the months, just in different meetings, and I think it's pretty safe to say that we all support street vendors. Okay, and and I think it is something that we embrace, and we know that street vendors bring they contribute greatly to the microeconomic structure of our city. So we support them. Simultaneously, I think we also support our brick and mortar restaurants and our brick and mortar businesses. They've equally have come to us and they've testified before us, and I think we've listened and I know staff has also listened quite well. And so your contributions to this policy and your contributions to this discussion has certainly gone recognized. And I wanted to thank you and all of your colleagues for coming here, and really educating us about this issue, because in this policy space, all of you are experts in this area. I also, the fact that we're aligning this issue with SB 946 clearly shows the council's attempt to decriminalize street vending and bring street vendors up to a place where we can provide them with support, education, and knowledge so that they can be growing and thriving businesses in our city. One of the most powerful testimonies that I've heard is, and I really appreciate this testimony that was given to us some months ago. A lot of the restaurants in our city, many of our restaurants, and some of the most successful restaurants in our city have all started as a street vendor, in one case or another. In fact, there's one restaurant in South Hayward who literally started by selling tamales out the trunk in around town 30, 35 years ago. So I think we have examples of how these, what some refer to as side hustles and what some refer to as these microeconomic entrepreneurial businesses, how they can grow into big, thriving businesses. And I think the city council and staff, I think we've been mindful of that. We've been paying attention to that. And I think that that's the goal that we've been all trying to aim for. And so what we're doing tonight is we're really trying to thread a very fine needle here. We're trying to bring our ordinance aligned with the state. But simultaneously, I think what we're trying to do here is make what is best for the city of Hayward and try to do something, because over the years, and not just this council, I've been up here some time now, that I think we've always tried to do things in the spirit of Hayward, what meets our needs best. And we do listen to the neighborhoods, we do listen to stakeholders, we do listen to everybody as we move forward with this. So I wanted to thank Director Bowser for her work on this. Wanted to thank Ms. Thompson, Ms. Ochoa for your work on this. I know you've put a lot of time in this, and clearly, I think the staff report and the documents you've given us clearly show the work that you've invested in this. So I really wanted to say thank you for that on behalf of the council. So with that said, I have other things to say, but I didn't want to say everything all at once. So with that said, I'm going to move to council first, and then I will proceed with public comment, and I'd like to open up with Council Member Zermeño.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I have a couple of quick questions. Let's see. Bathrooms and washing hands, how is that covered?
That would be covered by the California Health and Safety Code. So that would be enforced by ACDEH.
Okay, so that's that will be covered by that. All right, let's see. Does this allow open flames?
No, that is, again, that would be ACDEH enforcement, and that is against the California Health and Safety Code.
All right, okay, so that probably would include a churrero, correct? Because the churrero has this a large pan that's full of hot oil. Would that be included in there?
That's correct. That would be included.
Okay, that's good. And this is because it's public safety.
Correct.
Okay, we don't want anybody to get overly burned. All right, let's see. So this SB 946, it does not allow us, does it not allow us to have food vendors away from restaurants?
It allows you to have standards that are tied to an objective public safety, health, and welfare standard. So you could have, say, for example, a distance requirement for egress and ingress from an entrance, but it cannot be based upon economic competition.
Okay, so it does not allow us to say a food vendor can't be more than 200 feet from El Dorado restaurant.
It could, as long as it's tied to an objective health, safety, and welfare standard.
Oh, but not a competitive.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Are we going to include in this program some kind of an educational flyer to the restaurateurs who are going to ask, why is this person selling in front of my restaurant? Are we thinking of a flyer that will explain to them that state law does not allow us to prohibit that?
We could do that.
I think, and it should be in Spanish, in English, and Vietnamese, because they are going to wonder, we passed this, I'm hoping they could pass it, but then they're still going to see tomorrow and the following week that there's still somebody selling tamales in front of, 100 feet or within 150 feet of the restaurant. So they need to know why. Okay.
Okay.
That our hands are tied. All right, let's see. No, median sales, there's the section on sidewalk, on peddlers. Would that include selling on medians of our streets?
So in terms of sidewalk vending in the new section, chapter 6, section 16, I believe, or I might have the numbers transposed, they would not be allowed to sell on medians.
Okay, all right, because we see them quite often on the Jackson and the Hesperia. Okay, thank you. Let's see, the sidewalk vending and sidewalk vendors, would that include something along the lines of not being able to sell stolen property?
No, so we have a catch-all provision that states that sidewalk vendors have to comply with all federal, state, and local laws. That means not offering stolen property, which is against the law.
Which includes non-stolen property. Can we, are we including anything that would not allow these folks to sell stolen property?
So in the ordinance itself,
I thought I saw it on their sidewalk mainly, but I just want to make sure.
okay.
And you,
So 9, so L9, any other merchandise prohibited by federal, state, or local law from being vended. There's a list in L of prohibited items to be sold or items that are prohibited from being sold.
okay, thank you. Can you tell also, thank you for that. Can you tell me again why you are recommending no fee for permit, please?
Because that could be, the fee could be a barrier to entry. So we want to, on the one hand, provide opportunities for our micro businesses to come into the formal economy. At the same time, we want to encourage them to get a permit and get permitted and come into the formal economy. So, and also the staff time anticipated spent on the sidewalk vending permit would be akin to a home occupation permit, which is basically checking that the applicant has furnished all the required documents. It's just a checklist. So we also don't anticipate that that would take a lot of staff time either. In the event that that we see a significant increase in costs, we can reevaluate that, come back to council and reevaluate that waiver of the fee.
Okay, all right. And let's see, just one other quick one. Did you all perhaps, we have what, over 100 street vendors in the city of Hayward?
The exact number is not known.
Yeah, it's probably over 100. Did we or did you all perhaps spend a little bit of time considering finding a place where we could invite street vendors to gather a certain day, a certain hour, certain days? Is that something that was part of this study?
So we actually had a conversation with HARD. There could potentially be space in one of the parks for sidewalk vendors to congregate. So that's one option.
Okay.
And we also have the option of being a food vendor on private property, which we also allow under the zoning ordinance.
Thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you. Councilmember Syra.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. Just one question. Are we collecting revenue information as part of their registration process, or is that something that goes through just their tax filings?
So I am unsure of that question. We won't, if we waive the fee, I'm unsure if there's going to be any revenue generated from that.
So what I mean is they're making sales, and are we going to place any kind of expectation for them to report their revenue through those sales to us?
So yes, so they would have to report to us their sales and pay taxes.
Okay, and that would be part of their annual renewal of the permitting process?
That's correct, of their business license, yes.
Great, thank you. And then just a second question that came to mind was what kind of technical assistance are we providing these vendors to help walk them through this process?
So we had been in discussions with a community-based organization in Alameda County to hold workshops monthly or more frequently if we feel the need to do that. And also prepare and produce handouts in multiple languages to give to sidewalk vendors. So we anticipate that will be part of the implementation phase, which would begin once this ordinance is adopted.
Thank you.
Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Let's see, I had a few questions and well, I guess we'll go to the comments after this. I'm really glad to hear that you're talking about vendor spaces, like you're looking into that. That's great. Like we might consider some congregate spaces for vendors. And then the education efforts, I want to make sure that I think I saw in the staff report, we're going to be working with the county and also outreach efforts. And that we do that in places where we already know the vendors are. So we're not inviting them to City Hall, but maybe find some space on Tennyson so that we make it really easy for people to, to get the information that they need.
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Great. And then as far as, sidewalk, there was one comment from a community member about, wells, a lot of sidewalks are only about 4 feet, wide and they won't have space. And I mean, I'm assuming the point here is that we don't want them, impeding the right of way. And so if it's a sidewalk that is narrow, that's not an appropriate place for vendors. That's
correct. And then we also have federal requirements for ADA.
Okay.
To adhere to.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so. I just wanted to cover that. And then, I also wanted to ask about, what about a car or a van that just shows up, opens up the trunk and they're selling out of that?
They are not considered sidewalk vendors. And so the ordinance would not apply to them.
Okay. And is there another ordinance that applies to them?
Yes. So the peddler ordinance would apply to them.
Okay.
They would be considered peddlers.
Okay. And then what about, if a vendor that, fills out their permit and they say they're going to be stationary in this location on Monday, is there room for them to say, they're on one street Monday, one street Tuesday, one street Wednesday? Because I know there are some vendors that they have sort of hot spots they go to.
We could definitely, in our permitting process, accommodate that. They would have to show us, demonstrate to us, and probably provide the location of each place they're going to be in each day. But we definitely can work with the applicant.
Okay,
in
so
getting a
provide room
permit
for that.
to do that. Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I understand this just applies to public space, right? That's all we can regulate. But if somebody's, setting up right off the sidewalk on a parking lot, does that, then they're out of the sidewalk ordinance? I mean, how does that work?
That's correct. They would be, the food vendor ordinance would apply to them, and that's in the zoning ordinance. So those that vend food on private property, they're covered under the food vendor ordinance.
Okay. All right. So then we're not asking them to provide that property owner's information to give them permission, because that's now in a separate ordinance.
So for clarification, do you mean the food vendor that's vending on private property?
Yeah.
So there's a whole process for that.
Yeah,
And
okay.
they do have to provide property owner information.
Okay, under the food vendor ordinance. Okay. And then, thank you very much for adding the slide with the details of what we're asking them in this ordinance. Will there be assistance to, I mean, in the workshops, we'll talk about it, but, insurance and the county permitted, how easy are we going to help them make this for a little while, until we get people sort of used to the system?
As I think it's going to be fairly easy. We're going to provide a checklist of items. This should be something that's going to be processed right over the counter. If they have all of their materials, we can process it right then and there. The turnaround time should be very short. Just like I mentioned, a home occupation business license. So again, I don't see this as a overly onerous, cumbersome, complicated process.
But we can't do the county process, right? But can we help facilitate that for them or show them where that is or guide them in that?
We can definitely do that.
Okay. I mean, it just seems like that's the most important piece as far as resident safety, when it comes to food preparation. So whatever we can do to help facilitate that. And to that end, it was something I mentioned last time, but I want to make sure we add, if there's a link on Access Hayward to show, to be able to find out if there's a permit or report, a vendor that they don't think has a permit, can we include a link to the county for them to be able to respond to that as well?
We can definitely do that.
Okay, great. And then there was another community member question that I got that I just wanted to ask about, and that was the concessionaires exception. That, if a park has an agreement with a concessionaire, then the vendor has to be within 100 feet. And the question was sort of an interesting one, which is, so we are able to protect that concessionaire with 100 feet, with 100-foot, division, but not our businesses. And so I'm just wondering what interests we're protecting there and why we can't apply that to brick and mortar businesses.
That's a great question that goes to the intent of SB 946 because that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's because they've, my understanding is because that concessionaire has the exclusive right with the jurisdiction, in this case, maybe HARD or maybe the city of Hayward, to the exclusive right to vend and offer whatever food they're offering there, that's being protected.
Okay,
in a
and that
public
we
space.
find that different than a business that has, an exclusive right within their business area, but they don't.
Yeah, because that relationship is with the city, whereas the businesses are individuals. So I think that's the distinction between the two. I'm not sure if the city attorney has any additional information that they would like to offer.
Yeah, I mean, just because the community members' perception was, oh, so we can protect our interests, but we're not protecting their interests. So I'm just sort of wanted to, sort of make sure we're being honest about that.
Yeah, Councilmember Roche, this is Mike Vihili from the City Attorney's Office here. I'm on Zoom. Yeah, like Ms. Thompson said, that's contained in the Senate bill. So that was a decision made by the state legislature.
Okay.
And I think it is accurate that, I think one of the interests is that the vendor entered into a contractual relationship with the city. So the city has some contractual obligations to meet there.
All right, so we're just accepting that as because we're bringing that from state law. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with us protecting the concessionaire. I just want to make sure we're being, intellectually honest with who we're protecting. Okay. Okay, thank you. And then let's see, sorry, everyone else. I just want to make sure I get all my questions in. Let's see. I think that's it for now. The rest I think will be comments. Let's see. Oh, the last question I had was, the definition of food, because, what if it's just prepackaged items? Do they then have to get health code? Like if it's just sodas and chips? Like when does it kick into needing the county health permit?
So I am not well versed in that. We are supposed to have someone from Alameda County. I'm not sure if they're going to be in the public comment section, but well, my understanding is that prepackaged food, you still need to get a mobile food facility permit because you're still vending food. It's just the requirements are a little bit different, but because you're still vending food, you still need to get one.
Okay. Okay, that's it. And then the rest will be comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to staff. I commend you on doing many touch points regarding this item. One question I have though is the list that we have here for the $137 business license, a liability insurance, and the mobile food facility permit. Where does the seller's permit fit in, or is that the same thing as one of the other items listed? Because I hear that as well as an item that needs to be obtained.
Yes, that's another item that's required. It's just not on that list in the slide, but it is required. Yes.
All right, great. Okay, so I would like to just know a little bit more about the seller's permit. So is that distributed from the city of Hayward or through the county?
I believe
For
it's through the
this
state.
place? It's through the state?
Yes.
That's right. Okay, that's right. Okay, got it. Another question is, it's related to Councilmember Roche's comment about the education. I was wondering about Tennyson and Mission in particular. I know there's also some activity on Hesperian. Have we identified locations where that education will be held? Did I miss that in the report, or you're looking at areas right now?
No, we have not identified that
Okay.
yet, but we definitely will be looking into that area since that's where a lot of vending activity is occurring.
Okay, so question on what that looks like. I'm trying to say without comments, but what does it look like? Is it going to be in a building or is that outreach and education going to be outside a building? Because I think that's going to be an issue if you're requesting folks to come into a building, right?
Yeah. So we've had conversations about this and we're thinking about doing a combination.
Okay.
One, reaching out to individual sidewalk vendors, giving them materials, letting them know about the permitting process. And two, inviting them to a workshop where there will be someone from the city, someone from the county, and someone from a community-based organization to serve sort of as a one-stop shop for all of their questions and also to start the permit process.
Okay, and just to confirm, this is going to be done by code enforcement.
It's more than likely going to probably be done by planning.
Planning? Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then are you going to partner with the county in terms of that education? Because this is their job, right? So.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Goldstein. It's Councilmember Bonilla first, and then you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks. I appreciate the questions that my colleagues have asked because I had a similar question, which is, what is going to be the process to educate the street vendors on, what steps they need to take? And it sounds like that's to be determined. But as Councilmember Andrews had, implied, I think going out on the street is going to be what we need to do versus trying to bring them into, us. What is the feasibility of the Economic Development Department providing almost like concierge level support to these folks to get them through the process? Because I do appreciate the slide that you had, which kind of showed a simpler view of the process. But when I was going through it, I kind of counted at least 6 steps, right? We got to get through an application, then we got to get through a site plan or some kind of map. Then we got to get a mobile food facility permit, California Department of Tax and Fee permit, general liability insurance, building business I mean, that I get your view on, that might seem kind of simple, but it doesn't seem simple to me. So I guess what is the feasibility of having someone from a city department actually steward or guide these folks? And if they have questions or get stuck on one of these steps, they can call that person, get guidance and get more, I guess, one-on-one support versus general, informational session type support.
Yeah, we can definitely provide that if they come to the permit center and come to the counter. Planners, that's what we do. That's our job. And we will gladly provide that one-on-one service that they need. Going back to it being 6 steps, is actually the application itself requires the business license and it requires the demonstration of the seller's permit and the mobile food. So that's actually, it's just a checklist, making sure that you have all of those items. So once you've gathered all of those items, then it's just kind of one step. You come in with your application and your items and we make sure you have everything and then we issue the sidewalk vending
I guess
permit.
my question is, can we have somebody help them get those things? Because I get coming to the counter's administrative process once you have all of these things aligned, but getting these things could be difficult. So I guess what I'm asking is, let's say if someone has a question about how do I go about obtaining general liability insurance? Where do I go? What's available? Who would be there to answer those questions for them to get them through that step to make sure that Sure, to make sure that one of those steps isn't, the reason why they can't get through the process.
They could call us, email us. Planning staff is available to help them with any step in the process or any gathering any information they need. We plan on also establishing a website that will also have documents there too. If that's the best way for them to get information. So there will be multiple ways that they can get the information that they need.
Okay. That's great. Just, want to make this as simple as possible and cut as much red tape as possible. So what is the period in which this policy is, let's say, approved by council or adopted versus it being effective? Is it like immediately? Is there like a 6-month period in which we'll go out and do this education? Or I guess, what does that time frame look like?
So, so the effective date of the ordinance itself after the second reading will be on the 31st day. We're planning on coordinating with the county and community-based organizations shortly thereafter. We want to make sure we have an ordinance in place and that it's the final version of the ordinance before we actually commit to doing something. We don't want to do anything and then something changes. So, yeah.
Okay, great. And then, I think from the council work session on June 6th, there was some feedback that you guys had that we provided, which, really was encouraging pre-identified spaces within the city for these sidewalk vendors to, congregate and, perform these activities. So I do appreciate kind of, us continuing to be creative in how it is and where it is we find those spaces. The other question I had is, it says, the a valid California Department of Tax and Fee Administration seller permit, if applicable. What would make that a requirement versus not?
If they're selling any merchandise. So if they're selling merchandise, that would make it applicable. If they're selling food, then they wouldn't need that.
Got it. Thank you for that. And then you answer the question about how much the business license is going to be. Let's see here. Any particular reason why the permit is 1 year versus 2 or 3 years? Is 1 year just the standard time period?
That's in concert with a business license renewal, so that can all be done at the same time.
Got it. And then I also noticed slightly higher fees, as it relates to if a vendor violates local regulation, without a permit. And then also, I guess, if the sidewalk vending permit is required and the vendor is operating without a permit, there's 2 different fee schedules. Why one higher than the other?
So that is it aligns and that is pulled straight from SB 946. And I think the intention is that we could charge as a jurisdiction, a higher fine for someone vending without a permit than actually they have a permit, but something operationally needs to be corrected. So there's a higher penalty for vending without a permit versus vending with a permit, but there's been some other violation.
Makes sense. And then who will do the enforcement of this ordinance?
So when it comes to the California Health and Safety Code, it would be Alameda County. When it comes to our sidewalk vending ordinance operational and locational requirements, it would be code enforcement.
Got it. So if code enforcement goes out, kind of like to the sidewalk issue, we had heard the sidewalks are, small, they're operating maybe in a way that's blocking ADA accessibility. Would that also come with recommendations on where they could go or how they could come into compliance?
So because this is a collaborative educational approach, that would be what we want to do is, okay, this is an alternative for you.
Great. And then I know that you had face-to-face interviews with sidewalk vendors around the city. I mean, can you just tell us a little bit more about some of the feedback that you heard? Because I know on February 2nd, there was a stakeholder meeting, but it seems like there was a relatively small group of sidewalk vendors that participated in that. So I guess in your face-to-face interviews with the sidewalk vendors, what was some of the concerns you heard from them?
So most of them were willing to get a permit. Most of them wanted to be permitted. Most of them wanted to be part of the formal economy. The main concern was cost, that getting a permit would be cost prohibitive. So when we thought about costs, that's one consideration that came up was, okay, what could get the vendors to get a permit? What could encourage them to come in and get a permit? So that was the biggest consideration.
Got it. And then thank you for answering that. By the way, my final question is, I'm not sure if it's like a revolving loan or if it's a grant, but would there be financial assistance available if, let's say they got to one of these steps and they just didn't have the, money to move forward?
So actually through, there are some resources through the community-based organization that we've got in touch with. And also we've contacted the city of Oakland, and they also had referred us to some other individuals that provide and companies that provide financial assistance as well.
Great. Thank you. Those are my questions on this item. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Goldstein. And again, I apologize.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Mayor. Great job, staff. Clearly you've put effort and thought and depth into this piece of legislation. So, and my colleagues have asked all the questions. So I'm sitting here having to manufacture one on the fly. No, I'm kidding. So we talked about enforcement, and in fact, I like the process because it gives people an opportunity to kind of learn on the fly. And if they get it wrong, they're given instructions on how to fix it. I like it in our excess Hayward that there's a place someone can go and find out how to get the permit started. I like that. What's missing though, and I'm wondering if you're making any plans to add into excess Hayward, facility for someone to report a violation. Now, when I say that, I'm not looking for a way to harass street vendors, but simply to make sure that they are compliant. My biggest concern there is with the food safety. And so that means that if we have facility in excess Hayward for someone to report some violation, that if it's related to food, that we don't just report back to the reporter that they need to contact the county, but that we would then take that message to the county. Has there been any plans developed around that, or is that something you think we can add?
That's something we can add. When it comes to food safety, that is the purview of Alameda County. So if we do, say, get a complaint about that, we would definitely want to relay that to the authority, the agency with the authority. And in that case, that would be Alameda County.
Good, right. So that would be the process then if somebody reported a food or other health and safety violation, that we would track that through to whomever that report needed to go. County, I think there's also, this would be like kind of wild haired, but a toxic substance might go to, if they're dumping stuff in the sewers, it would have to go to Water Control Board. If they were using some other toxic chemicals, perhaps the State Department of Toxic Substances, Toxic Control, I forgot what the name of that organization is. So I would just ask that be added.
Okay,
Yeah,
we can do
okay.
that.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I have one question. I'm going to limit what I say just to one question. And I noticed that there wasn't, and I think I was one that brought this up too when we had a work session on this sign requirement. I know that there's a lot of different signs attached to food vendors. There's the big waving flag, and then there's the over there by Chabot, there's the big chicken on the on the side of on Hesperian. Yeah, and so I was just, are there or can we put in here requirements around signage, like limiting it to one A-frame sign?
We can do that. And we would also have to take a look at our sign ordinance to make sure that they're consistent, but we could definitely add in signage requirements.
Yes, that I'd like to have, and that would be great. Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to open up to public comments. I have two comments online, and I was just curious. There is a name here that that I'm not familiar with. And did I hear you correctly that there was somebody potentially from the county going to participate tonight?
Yes.
Could that be Guadalupe Angulo?
No.
Oh, okay. All righty. Thank you. Okay, so let me go to the callers online. There's only two, and then I'll open up to public comment. If anybody in the chamber has a public comment, please see the city clerk, fill out a card, and because we'd love to hear what you have to say. And okay, so first is Guadalupe Angulo. You can go ahead and key up.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, council members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Guadalupe Angulo, I'm on the Community Services Commission, Mayor, and thank you for all your work on creating a sensible sidewalk vendor ordinance and supporting all entrepreneurs in Hayward. I'm calling in regards to implementation and education. I wanted to highlight the importance of making the business license and permit application process accessible to all, and request that the city consider providing supportive resources in various relevant languages and consider hosting workshops or information sessions in the community to assist residents in filling out paperwork, and that the city proactively reach out to the community to ensure that they are aware of the new regs and regulations and support available to them. Also encourage the city to collaborate with local community orgs that have experience in helping residents with paperwork and permits, because these orgs can play a vital role in bridging language and accessibility gaps, and to ask for regular updates and reports on the effectiveness of these efforts, how many vendors successfully got all permitting done, ensuring that everyone in the community can participate in sidewalk vending without unnecessary barriers, and seeing how effective the ordinance has been for the city. And finally, I'm expressing my hope that the council members will consider the unique needs of Hayward residents as you implement the ordinance, because a more inclusive and accessible process benefits the community as a whole. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And of course, Commissioner Angulo, I should have remembered, a newly appointed CSC member or CSC commissioner. Next caller is South Hayward Aurora Now.
Yes, hello, thank you. So I just want to make a couple points. First of all, I just want to say how happy I am to see this ordinance finally before the city council. It's been a year coming, and I think this is a great first step in helping to keep a balance. And SB 946 allows for any person, either documented or undocumented, with the driver's California ID to obtain a mobile food facility permit. Also, section 51038 of the government code says a local authority shall not prohibit a sidewalk vendor from selling food or merchandise in a park owned or operated by a local authority unless there's a concession. And I believe, I'm very certain, almost a vast majority of Hayward parks do not have a concession contract. And so that would open up all the Hayward parks to street food vending. I think this is a great state bill. I think it's a great local ordinance. It does put the city, legally obligates the city to enforce the protection of the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens as adopted by SB 946 and Government Code Section 51038 in conjunction with Health and Safety Code 113700. All of those laws that were passed does not allow the county or state to does not allow unpermitted street food vendors. These laws are created for the purpose of those folks who are pursuing street permits, street vending permits. But the law is very clear. The intent, if you read all of those laws, it says you must have a permit. Otherwise, you cannot even be on the street. So this is great. The ordinance will put that legal obligation on the city and also fall in conjunction with the state law. And one last thing, the section 51 Government Code Section 51039, the fines. So there's two sets of fines. The fine is for folks who violate the vending program under this ordinance. And then the second set of fines is, again, to protect the health, safety, and welfare of citizens, is the fines for folks who are selling out there without a permit. So again, these laws put the city in legal obligation along with the county to not allow unpermitted street food vendors. However, I feel it would be good if there was a means to fine, and then if the person pursues a permit, then that fee can be dropped if they've shown that they pursued a permit within a certain amount of time. Otherwise, if the city does not go out there and fine, then if something happens, the city will be held legally liable by this ordinance, by adopting this ordinance in conjunction with the state laws and the state codes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hold on. Thank you. I have one more caller here online, so I'm going to take this one caller, and then I'll return to the chamber. Melanie, go right ahead and key up.
Hello. Hi, can
Hello.
you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry. My daughter's name was on my device here, but my name is Araceli Orozco, and I volunteer a lot at schools with parents. That's one of my biggest passions that I do. I like to help the parents navigate the school system. So I know a lot of these vendors that they sell at our streets here. And I just want to remind you folks, that, once again, that these are people that are working very, very hard to be able to live here, especially here at in this Bay Area, so expensive. So one of my biggest concerns is that the council member mentioned it about the procedure, getting all these permits, all these permits, the money that these families are going to have to be able to pay. Also, I know that there's a language barrier also that our families, have to struggle with that. I know that also it's sometimes it's intimidating even going into the computer and trying to look up for stuff. So my suggestions is to see if they could have a sort of like a site where they could go and help, be helped by someone that could log in and help them with the process of the applications, and why not, have also that list of resources and help with monetary help that these families can also get. And then my last concern is also the how our vendors are going to be notified of all these new changes that the city's going to have with this ordinance. So those are my comments, my concerns, and my suggestions, and I thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Tony Solorio.
Good evening, council. Good evening, everybody. I want to say hi. And to my planning commissioners out here, I want to say good job on the guidelines, on building the guidelines for this ordinance. You guys took a lot of work to put together. I'm glad you guys just didn't throw it, under your desk. We'll deal with it later. It is out of control, but it's something that's going to be taken care of, which is really good. My question was, there was only one comment that I didn't really understand on the sidewalk vending. I know you guys don't want them on the sidewalk due to the safety factor, that means that it could be on a private property just by going on there themselves, or are they gonna need also permission from that property owner to come and submit for their license? That was my question. I'm not sure if that could get answered right now.
If you ask the questions and then after you're done, then we'll have them respond. Yeah.
So yeah, the only question was, like I said, good job on building it. All the guidelines they need to health department, getting their city permit, license, all that. Good job. They're gonna have a lot of to-do lists from the health department that to get their permit to be able to sell that. It's gonna be a long one. Yes, they're gonna need help to understand it, but I'm sure there's a lot of help out there for them to get it. And number one, again, that question was, are they gonna just be able to post up on private property? Or are they gonna need a contract, a leasing contract, a rental contract from that property owner to get that ordinance permit? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ms. Peggy Guernsey.
Also, I'd like to thank the planners for the hard work that they did, because I asked a lot of questions and they were there for it. I wrote down, do these vendors, I guess I'm going to say, well, the vendors have to have a county permit and all that, the health set, before they ever come to Hayward to get our permit and go through our process so that we know that they're clean and safe and all that stuff. And does each vendor have to have a name? And do they have to have that name showing on their cart? Like the mayor is talking about signage, you know, not just a fat chicken sitting on Hesperian, but, you know, Harry's fat chicken or something, so they can be identified. How do I know if someone is using clean equipment, or if I see that their hands are filthy and stuff like that? Do I call the police? Do I do Access Hayward? Do I call the code enforcement? I'd like to know that. And am I going to put myself at risk if I take pictures because they want to know what was the violation and that sort of thing? Who will check and review from daily, monthly sales receipts? I know businesses, you have auditors and they put in a business and you pay business stuff. How does that process go through? And what if they're blocking the sidewalk and I can't get by or somebody else can't get by? Again, do we have to take pictures and bring up the violation? Or, but I have to say to Commissioner Bonilla, I really like the 6 different things. I like lists. I can check them off. That when I was in school, the professor said, this has to be on your report before you can turn it in if it's not there. And I think with all the support that you've added and is going to be there, it will be clear. And if it's not, and if we don't translate it correctly, we'll find out how to translate it correctly, because then there's no questions. If they're here and they have to follow the law, then we've got the best thing going. And must the permit and the license be visible at all times on the cart or whatever? Thank you very much.
And I saw that you had demoted Councilmember Bonilla to Commissioner Bonilla, but I'm now going to promote him back to Councilmember Bonilla. Welcome back, Councilmember. Okay, thank you. Thank you for those questions, and thank you for those thoughtful questions and feedback. And I believe I'm looking at a fresh list here. Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Andrews, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you again for the presentation and giving us very clear guidelines from the state versus us. So I want to commend you on that. So the locations I was thinking of when we were talking about education, I was hoping that staff could review the following. Eating at the Family Center, Stack Center when it's open in the future, to address a lot of the vendors on Tennyson, Eden area ROP on Hesperian, City Hall, the libraries, and then figuring out how do we do outdoor outreach. I know there's a lot near Edna's Donuts and near Huntwood. So those are the areas I was thinking of, maybe doing some outdoor outreach in those areas in particular. Also guiding folks to the community calendar, just so they can see that there are outdoor vending opportunities throughout the year, and seeing if that can be something that would be part of the education. Also giving I think the signage comment and request is a good one. So just figuring out how do you make that also accessible. A lot of our businesses don't follow the sign requirements. So I'm a little nervous about how that gets translated to sidewalk vending. So just making sure it's clearly outlined of what is needed there. Also for the CBO grants available, is that something that will be part of the education, and how does it get updated? Because sometimes those grants expire. So is that something that the city can also maintain a list of, or is it just going to be linked to the organization itself? And I don't know if you all want to make a comment on that, or if that could just be taken as a note. Let's see. Also, I agree with making sure that, people understand that it is a lot of money for some folks and not a lot for others. So I agree with the $0 permit and making sure that the education is the key here and not necessarily obtaining fees. So just want to, let the community know this is not a way for us to get more fees. It's more about education and making sure that businesses are feeling supported in our city, making sure that we are acknowledging that there are health and safety codes that we need to abide by. So, and then I wanted to also address the open flame, and there's a particular location I get a lot of complaints about, and it's not in Hayward. I just want to remind the community that Whipple is not in Hayward, that part is in Union City, but I'm really concerned about the open flame. I understand that there's there's a lot of people who appreciate the open flame chicken and that food, but I'm more concerned about the trees that are in those locations near the open flame. So how, if we see something like that near the trees, are we going to be able to address it right then and there, because it's a fire safety issue at that point? Is that something that we can address immediately, or does it have to go through all the steps of enforcement?
That's a good question about the open flame issue, because that is a health and safety issue that is under the purview of Alameda County. Where the line between it being beyond a health and safety Alameda County issue and a city issue is not clear to me. I can definitely check with our fire department to see exactly what is, when it becomes an issue for us to immediately address from the fire department.
Okay, that would be great if we can have some clarity there. But I just want to say I appreciate the approach of education and making sure that our communities feel supported on both sides of the issue. So thank you.
Councilmember Syra.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to clarify. So will the permit have to be displayed so folks in the public can see it?
That is correct.
Great. And what information will be contained on the permit?
Their name, their contact information, and basically it will be it will be their sidewalk vending permit. The information provided for their sidewalk vending permit will be displayed.
Okay, got it. So yeah, just wanted to thank you again for this report. And then for the public, to echo the mayor's comments, when we make a rule, we want to make sure we're making it right. This has been a year in the making, and we're doing what we can to make sure there's minimal unintended consequences. So just appreciate all the effort that's gone into this. I also want to state for the public that our city surveyed over 1,300 residents, and over 60% of them were in support, some with minimal concerns. And that's one side of the equation. And then of course, our small businesses that help provide jobs and bring in sales tax revenue are also part of that equation. So I'm trying to find the right way to approach this. I think overall, I'm in support of what you're recommending that we adopt tonight. And so I will be happy to move the item. I share Councilmember Bonilla's concern that 6 steps might seem cumbersome, but I also would guarantee that starting a brick and mortar business is more than 6 steps. So I think that this is a reasonable number as long as there is technical assistance and that's being provided, whether that's through the city or through a CBO. But I want to echo Commissioner Angelo's comments that this technical assistance should be provided in multiple languages to ensure that we're not excluding anybody from participating in the formal economy. I think that I'm curious I would like to revisit the permitting fee in the future. I think it'd be nice to have a progressive fee structure so that if a sidewalk vendor is making a lot of revenue, they're expected to contribute a little bit to the permitting costs because this program is going to cost staff time and taxpayer dollars. And I think that folks should be paying into making that financially sustainable in the future. I think for now, this is reasonable just to get the program off the ground and see what works. But I would be interested in having that conversation in the future. And lastly, I just would like to thank everybody in the community that contributed to this conversation. I hope you see that we've been very deliberate in our approach. I'm happy with what's been presented and I'm happy to move the item.
Man, I was gonna move it, but he was, it's all right. It's okay. Okay, next is Councilmember Zermeño.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments and then a couple of recommendations. Good report again. Thank you for the speakers. Let's see. I like the public safety issues on this particular ordinance. Safety of the consumers, safety of the peddlers who who could be hit in the medians, safety of those vendors who are taking up the sidewalk or close to the exits or entries into the station parking lots. So I like that. I like the fact that we will prevent them from having styrofoam and other goodies that we do not approve of. And I see many of that there. I don't like the fact that it does not protect brick and mortar restaurants, but again, unfortunately, our hands are tied on that. I like the whole packet because it will allow another Solorio family to start from a street corner and eventually graduate up to a brick and mortar. I think that's excellent because this will allow anyone. It's just inclusive in that respect. And once they move up to the brick and mortar, that's excellent for the economy of our city. So those are excellent. So I only have one real negative. My recommendations, let's see, recommendation number 1. I want us to reconsider the permit fee. Every entrepreneur knows that they need to have some funds in order to start a business. That is automatic. And it's, in my mind, I'm not sure that we need to say, come over and get a permit, it's free. They expect to pay something. And in my mind, that it could be a nominal fee of $50. So I want to make that recommendation and I want to pass it on to my colleagues. Let's see, let's work on, this is a strong recommendation. Let's really work on a location. We have marketplace where we get quite a few sellers, quite a few restaurants. We put them in a building and you go in there and it's a smorgasbord of culinary delights. Mexico, Guatemala, Costa Rica, they saw all these vendors in the street. So they put a little building together and they said, come on over, this is your place for a minimal fee or even nothing. So instead of having the street filled with sellers of goodies, now they actually have a building and it works. So I really recommend that strongly. Another recommendation that I like to make is let's consider some kind of a limit. Unless we want a street vendor to be a street vendor for 20 or 30 years, can we consider having a street vendor come up with some kind of a plan? Okay, how long do you expect to be selling tamales? Could we work with you to perhaps come up with a plan that in 3, 5, 6 years, you will ultimately have a brick and mortar place? Maybe we can take this tamal seller and partner him or her up with another one who may be selling tortas. So let's work on a torta and a tamal restaurant together. Unless we are going to, or we expect to have a tamal seller for 20, 30 years. I see that as a possibility. So let's consider that. I really want to make sure that we have a note explaining to the restaurateurs why we cannot prevent a tamal seller in front of an Indio restaurant just less than 100 feet away at Grand and Jackson. And there they are selling tamales, which is what El Indio Taqueria sells also. The owners of El Indio need to be told, we cannot prohibit that because the state does not allow us that. It's state control instead of local control.
Name those state people.
All right. I'd like to see a report in about 6 months. How many actual, if we can do a head count as to the number of sellers in about 6 months and see how the program is doing. And I do support the motion, so I'll be a third.
Was that?
I'll be third on the motion.
Thank
you very much.
I think we worked that out already, but
All right.
Are you finished?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I do agree with my colleagues. I think that this was a great presentation tonight. I think that this ordinance is thoughtful, it's well balanced. I think it supports the need of our microeconomy and also balancing public safety, without over-regulating, but bring in some regulations, because I think if we over-regulate this, it's just going to happen on the underground anyway. So this balanced approach is, I think, very thoughtful, and I'm generally supportive of it. I do want to see an update in 12 months to understand how this is working, where the barriers are at. I still feel like we're underestimating the complexity of those 6 steps. I think going to the county to get that permit is going to be much more difficult than what we're here tonight talking about. It's not a matter of 6 things that you go down a checklist and get overnight. So I'm very interested in the journey of these entrepreneurs and how it is they're going to go from where they're at today to fully permit it, and how long it's going to take. And like I said, where those barriers are in the process. I do support, no cost for this in the beginning. I think that there's already going to be some financial costs that these entrepreneurs are going to need to face. I get my colleagues' comment that brick and mortar businesses face similar cost, or more cost rather, but we still need to be mindful of the costs that this ordinance is going to bring to the folks that need to come into compliance with it. So I strongly support, us finding financial assistance, finding grants, working with nonprofits to make sure that money is going to be available. The last thing that I would, hate to hear is that there was a food vendor, sidewalk vendor who was unable to get through the process because they ran into financial hurdles. They kept selling, now they're getting fined, and it's just spiraling and perpetuating a system that is not benefiting the community or the merchant in that case. dedicated support in addition to financial assistance. I'm not sure if that's a phone number that they call that we set up, that, it's not the planning department, but it's a separate line that's a support line for this, so that if people have direct questions, if they're hitting roadblocks, if they're having issues with the county or moving through that process, that they have a dedicated place to call to get that help. Again, very supportive of this permitting process. Just want to make sure that it includes a very strong and robust educational and awareness component, that component is rooted in community. I think asking these people to come to government buildings probably isn't going to be the most effective approach to get them to understand what's required here. And then providing as much assistance as possible for these existing sidewalk vendors to obtain the necessary permits is something that I also stand strongly behind. But outside of that, I just wanted to, thank the community for all of their input, thank the staff for the thoughtfulness that went into this ordinance, and thank my colleagues up here on the dais for helping shape what I think is a very well-balanced and thoughtful ordinance that will move us forward in the right direction. So with that, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. And before I start my comments, I was wondering, could you answer the community member's question about the private property question?
Sure. So that would, in that case, on private property, that would not be a sidewalk vendor. That would be a food vendor. And under the food vendor application process, yes, they are required to provide or get permission from the property owner in order to operate in order to vend on private property.
So what happened with the safety of the people walking on the sidewalk, vending on the sidewalk? Mr. Solorio, I have to cut you off right there. But I think staff understands sort of the issue there. So the response is, what's the response again?
The response is that, yes, a food vendor on private property would have to get permission in order to vend on private property from the property owner.
Yeah, and demonstrate. And if they are disrupting, I know it's your time, but if they are blocking or disrupting sidewalk space, that would be in violation of the ordinance?
That would be in violation of the food vendor ordinance. Yeah. And because they have to comply with other rules in the municipal code, which include providing ingress and egress.
Okay, perfect. Okay, council member.
Thank you. No, thank you for making that clarification. I hope that helped. And it sounds like you can follow up, on that question. So I also wanted to thank you for, I know this was a long process and I really appreciate that we got this far. And I think we got here because we heard from the community that they were looking for balance, one to protect Hayward's businesses from, potential unfair advantage by vendors setting up in front or near their businesses, but also the community's desire to support, the entrepreneurial spirit, cultural benefit, and community socialization around street vendors. I think we can achieve that. And I don't think it's unreasonable to ask that street vendors come into compliance with city regulations. I think it's fine that we've been questioning the complexity of coming into compliance, which is why I am also supportive of the $0 permit fee, knowing that they're going to have a lot of other costs to get there, the business license, the county permit, all of that. They're going to have significant cost anyway. So I am supportive of the $0 permit with, I think, the suggestion about potentially looking in the future to sort of, ratchet that up depending on how hard we find that people found the process, I guess I should say. But by saying, to operate in Hayward, we're just asking you to comply with basic regulations as we are asking our brick and mortar businesses. I think the state has made it clear, and I agree that we shouldn't criminalize street vendors. But by simply saying like the brick and mortar businesses have to comply in certain ways, and we're asking you to do that too if you want to sell things in the city, I think is completely reasonable. Especially it provides a safer environment for our residents and a safer environment for people walking around town. So I'm really glad about what we've done here. I'm really glad we're considering congruent spaces for vendors. And I would encourage the Economic Development Committee to explore that further, who's on that committee. I'm definitely interested in the multimodal education efforts we're talking about. I think as Councilmember Andrews' suggestions on some of those locations are great. I think a potential blitz day of volunteers, or I mean, I'd be willing, maybe we get all the commissioners together, the council together to go out and pass out flyers, maybe simple flyers with a QR code or something like that. I also think it'd be great, we could set up our own, tents out there and some of the really busy areas with, on-site ability to do that. Maybe like, we have a mobile office basically to help people with this. I also think sandwich boards would be a great idea with just a big QR code, website, email. It might be helpful to have out on the streets for a while. And then the self-help center, I think, the county has a self-help center for like self-help, legal help. And maybe perhaps we do that, dedicated staff member to, sit with somebody like in a self-help manner, I think would be probably really helpful to get people to comply with this. And then I also liked the, I was saying like a pop-up office. And then, and I do like the idea of like a hotline so that when vendors find themselves in trouble, because either they're in the middle of a process of complying or they're being somebody's reporting on them, somebody to call and say, what do I do now? Like, and then to be reassured somehow, we know you're in the process. Don't worry, we're not going to fine you. It might be helpful. Like I said, a hotline number or something. But otherwise, thank you so much for getting us here. And I hope this will, serve us well in the community. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I wanted to first acknowledge my colleagues on the Economic Development Committee, Councilmember Bonilla and Mayor Pro Tem Andrews. I know when this came to us, we sort of took the first stab at this and tried to put together a framework where we are at now today. And I wanted to acknowledge Director Bowser and of course staff for sort of capturing those sentiments and those feelings that we had in the CDEC. I also wanted to acknowledge all of us up here on the council. This is something that we've been talking about for a long time, and here we are. And it looks like everyone seems to be in support of this. So I really wanted to thank everybody up here for their work on this. I think at the end of the day, what we're doing here this evening is we're leveling up all businesses. We're taking, microeconomic entrepreneurs, micro businesses, and we're trying to sort of level them up so that we not only align and standardize along with SB 946, but what we're really trying to do is level up some of the most, new, innovative entrepreneurs around food. I mean, this is something that's been going on all over the state for a very long time. And I think what we've done here has been very deliberate. And I have to agree with Councilmember Syrup about our deliberateness and our thoughtfulness here. Secondly, I agree with the comment about being balanced. This is a very balanced program. There may be some unintended consequences. I'm not saying that we're going to solve everything up here right now. I think coming back in a year, I think it's a great idea, and evaluating where we are at, and then we can plan accordingly. I appreciated Councilmember Cermeño's idea about charging something. And I kind of was struggling with that as you brought that up, and because I do agree. Opening a business is a difficult process, right? We know that. I mean, and there's costs incurred, right? I mean, there's things and there's processes. There's 7 steps, and there's probably more. But it's. But at the end of the, but I think things. If I understand that there is difficulty in this process, but I think the spirit that we're trying to capture up here is we're trying to sort of spur innovation, spur some of these street level vendors to get on board. And I think this is a great incentive to do that. You know, even if there was a meager $25 fee or something, I get it. But you know, if it's free, there's absolutely no reason, no reason at all to participate, right? Because we would probably have a conversation about, well, it's cost $25, and you know, and so we would have to have that conversation. But I think if where we are at now, I think it's just more of an incentive to get everybody on board. So I like that. As you know, as we're talking about education and getting the word out and doing education dissemination and all that, I was thinking this would be a great opportunity for Kirby. You know, Kirby's out there, and we can you know, distribute a lot of this information on, you know, on Kirby. And because Kirby is out in the neighborhood, right? And it's in South Hayward, you know, and so forth. So the other thing too is I absolutely agree, and I totally get about, you know, and this is going to Commissioner Angulo's point. I totally understand that the city should play a role in, you know, engaging the street vendors and disseminating information and doing education and all of that. Absolutely, it's our program, therefore we should be doing that. But at the same time, I don't want to stifle organizations like the Hayward Chamber of Commerce, where they can plan programming around, you know, going out and creating education and, you know, and really being a leader in this space and having, you know, a street vendor, you know, branch out of the chamber somehow or something. So, and I just use the chamber as one example, but I want to give organizations in the city an opportunity to be innovative on how do we mobilize street vendors and how do we educate them and sort of and help them level up to this process. So I just want us to sort of be mindful of that and be thinking about that. And then lastly, I just wanted to say, you know, this is we are responding to a neighborhood concern. This issue is a direct concern that came out of not only neighbors calling in and asking for an ordinance, but businesses, local businesses. They've been asking for this, and based on the data that we had and on the surveys and the reports from staff while they talked to street vendors want this. Everybody wants this. And so here we are, you know, responding to that. So with that said, I wanted to say thank you for everybody's work on this. And I also wanted to extend a thank you to Council. I'm going to move the item and Councilmember Syrup has very graciously offered to second the item. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Andrews. Madam City Clerk, moved by Mayor Salinas, seconded by Councilmember Syrup. And if there are no further questions, Madam City Clerk, you can take the roll.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Andrews. Aye. Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Yes.
Councilmember Roach. Yes. Councilmember Syrup.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño. Mayor Salinas.
Yes, and it
Thank you.
passes unanimously. Congratulations and thank you everybody for your work on this. I thought maybe that would get a little applaud, you know, like a golf clap or something. Okay. All right. Okay. Next we have is council reports and announcements. And I don't see any council reports. Oh, it's Councilmember Cermeño.
Yes. A good opportunity to see street vendors was perhaps this Saturday. This Saturday at the South Hayward, at the Eden Youth and Family Center, Bruce and Tennyson, there's a South Hayward Mercadito with street vendors. So this would be a good idea to kind of see how it works and get them all together and have a good time. So it's between this Saturday, October 14th, between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. and I'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor. Next Thursday, October 19th in the evening, right here in council chambers and along the second floor, will be the 40th anniversary of Hayward Education Foundation. And everyone's invited. Tickets are available online and at the door. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mayor Pro Tem Andrews.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that there are a couple of trunk or treats coming up. So one is on October 14th, 1 to 4 at the Hub Parent Resource Center at 24823 Soto Road in Hayward. It is promoted by Fearless Path, and it's an organization focusing on events and resources for children that are experiencing autism. And then there's another trunk or treat with Hayward Promise Neighborhood, the Hayward Library at Heritage Plaza from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And there are a couple of Keep Hayward Clean and Green events. One is a dumping event. You can sign up at the City of Hayward website. I believe that's this Saturday. So you can look online for a location and registration, as well as a cleanup event at Weeks Park on October 28th and starting at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you for making that announcement for Keep Hayward Clean and Green. I've been tracking some conversation on social media around the increase of trash around Hayward recently. So here's a great opportunity to go out and participate and support that.
And just so you know, myself and council members Armeo have been escalating issues related to debris near our freeways, our exits. So a couple of weeks ago, we reached out. We will reach out again.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to report back on September 30th, 2 Saturdays ago, it's been a while since we had a meeting. There was a Hayward Night Market, and I just wanted to say thank you to all of our council members who came out. I think everybody showed up at one point in time, and just wanted to express how exciting it was to have you there and to have the community there. I think we had over 1,000 participants at the Hayward Night Market, and almost every single food vendor sold out of their food. Some of them even said, thank you, Peggy. Some of them even said, I sold so much tonight that I don't know if I have enough for my event tomorrow. And some other folks said, when is the next one? And somebody said, this is the first time in my life I feel like there's been an event like this in my neighborhood. So I think it's a really powerful example of what it means for us to invest in our community. And I hope that we can continue to support future night markets. Just a few quick thank yous. Alex Moreno for leading the organization of the night market, Eden Youth and Family for supporting that lead. And on staff, Zach Abadi and Javier for really making this come together in partnership with St. Rose Hospital, who was very gracious in offering up their space for the night market to happen. So a lot of work went into this. And I'm just really grateful to see the city and community members and community groups all coming together to make something for our neighborhood happen. Thanks.
And I did hear that, Miss Guernsey, please. And I did hear that the good people over at St. Rose Hospital equally were excited and are very open to the idea of having more. So that was good. Okay. And so I don't see any more speakers up here. So I'd like to move on to, we have a council referral this evening. And we have a city council referral, a bench for every bus stop, referral from council members Syrup and Zermeño. And I guess Syrup will kick this off.
I'll kick this off. Now that I know that you have to read out the referral titles, I'm thinking about making the next one, a couple paragraphs.
You just got to make them,
like,
I don't know what the engineering term is for a bus stop or for a bus bench, but like you got to
study in horizontal planes.
Yeah. I got to make it sound scientific.
Yeah. So before I dive into this, I just want to start with a few quick thank yous. First of all, to AC Transit, its board directors, including Director McCallie, who's here tonight, who sat through 2 hours of a public hearing to be here to give comment, and especially their staff. Director Del Rosario was invaluable in helping me shape this referral and provide data regarding our city's bus stops. So I encourage you to take a look at that. You can see all the bus stops we have and the populations they serve. It's really fascinating. And then lastly, I want to thank Mayor John Bowders in Emeryville, who inspired this referral by placing benches all across his city and demonstrating that cities have the power to improve public transit as long as there's political will to do so. And I'd be remiss to not thank my fellow colleague, Councilmember Zermeño, for co-signing this with me. He and I both serve on the Alameda County Interagency Liaison Committee, and so we were excited to see how we can improve public transportation in our city. And so I know usually I read out what is in the referrals. It's on the website or on the agenda for folks that are interested. Long story short, we're trying to figure out how to install really affordable and low cost, low maintenance cost bus benches across the entire city. I'll start with the story. I live in the Upper B Street area, and there's a bus stop on both sides. I have seen seniors, I have seen parents, I have seen students standing for 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes waiting for a bus. For me, I think people that are taking public transportation are really helping the city in more ways than one. They're helping us reduce traffic on our streets. They're helping us meet our climate goals, and they're supporting public transportation and making sure it gets the funding it needs to continue to serve our city. And so I'm also appreciative of staff support of this referral. There's a staff report included with this item. However, I want to clarify that the seats that I want to pilot, and there are 5 in this proposal that I want to pilot while we're doing this study, isn't just to see if we're going to increase ridership, is to make sure that people don't stop taking the bus, because that's what I'm afraid of is, you know, we get into these cars and they have all these nice features. You have, you know, climate control settings and push to start engines, right? But when you take the bus, what do you got? A pole, the sun, and the hard concrete beneath your feet. So I think it's incumbent on us for really trying to encourage this as a way of life and meet our own goals around improving infrastructure and improving public transportation to make that experience as pleasant as possible, so people decide to make the decision to take the bus and enjoy doing so in the process. And then the last thing I want to add here is that I actually had a conversation with Mayor Bowders last night, and I'm going to actually throw out a little bit of an amendment to my own referral. Please don't kill me, City Manager McAdoo. It's very, very small, but I would like to say, rather than piloting 5 seats, I'd like to pilot 10 seats. According to John Bowders, he says, with a city of your size, 10 is a measurable number that allows you to try them in a variety of places. So I would like to motion or move this forward after my colleague makes some comments on it. I hear your thoughts on it too, but rather than piloting 5, I'd like to pilot 10. Thank you.
Councilmember Zermeño.
Thank you. And let's see, I've been on the AC Hayward Transit Committee for a couple of years with Sarah Lamb, colleague Sarah Lamb before, and George. And thank you for being here today. Thank you for supporting AC Transit, supporting this program. When wife and I were living in a condominium at Tampa and Tennyson, I used to take the bus to Chabot College. Just walk out to the corner and there it was. So I've been a bus rider all over the place. And when we're in Europe, when we're in Latin America, we take the bus. So it's something very important. And I kept asking AC Transit whenever we meet every 3 months, when are we going to have benches? I became tired of seeing older folks standing around, sitting on shopping carts. And the idea was, let's have some benches. There used to be a bench on Tennyson Road and right across the street from the auto store there, that was a Rotary. They had a Rotary emblem because apparently it was put there by Rotary, but it's no longer there. So that's an idea that can happen with these benches. We can also sell a little bit of advertising space on these benches so that they don't cost $2,000 or whatever the case. The ultimate goal is to have shelter bus stops, but let's start with the bench. If we can have a bench and every one of them, it'd be excellent. And I'm certainly glad that AC Transit was in favor of it. I'm hoping that you all are also in favor of it. And I'm sure that Chabot College is going to appreciate it. So Peggy, I hope you hope you approve this too. So I'm going to second the motion after you move it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Andrews.
I just had a question for our representatives. Is there a possibility that we can also look at trees in locations for near the bus stops? Because I know we've been asking for updated bus shelters and better maintenance, but that is cost is a factor. So is there something that we can also coordinate in relation to making these stops more pleasant?
Love it.
And then
Love it.
also, yeah. And then I don't know if we have control over this or is this AC Transit's purview, but the color of the semi seats, what is that something that can be Hayward branded, like the Hayward green? And, you know, just wanted to see if that's a possibility.
Just to answer quickly, the seats on the website are blue, but the ones that were installed in Emeryville were green. So I'm pretty sure the painting is something under our purview.
I would like to see some coordination because we are trying to have stronger identity in Hayward, and yep, he's going to talk about that too. So
absolutely. In fact, we encourage. Director, you're up next, and so I don't want to,
Sorry.
I don't want to look like the bad guy up here, but you're up next.
yeah, so those are just my 2 comments, but yes, I agree. The ultimate goal would be better bus shelters in general, and then also. I know that some streets they have really nice bus shelters, others don't. Is that something that we can also coordinate with the developers, part of our B permits or something that we can put in our conditions of approval, working with our developers to upgrade our bus shelters? That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director McCallie. Yeah. Okay, 1 moment, Director McCallie. Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. I love that tree idea. In fact, I got a comment from a community member that said, for every one of these seats we put in, let's put in a tree. So yeah, whatever we can do to facilitate that, I think it sounds like people are thinking in the same direction. And then I just wanted to sort of comment on your question about doubling the number to 5. I mean, ideally I don't mind, but what does that do, I guess, as far as staff? So does that make it $60,000 now as the ask? And then, when we buy in bulk, is it cheaper? I mean, do you know what that does?
The seats themselves should be 2,000 with labor included. That was the estimate that was given in the staff report. The 30,000 that I'm requesting is to participate in the accessibility study. So these are separate expenses. Does that make sense?
And I would just ask, I think our public works director is still on the call.
We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
No, it's your mask.
Yeah, it's your mic. I think it was.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I don't think our public works director is on the call anymore. I was going to ask him. Oh, I think our assistant director, Kathy Garcia, I don't know if she had any comments about increasing the number. I can add her to the meeting.
To answer your question, that would be 60,000, and seeing as it is a one-time expense, I think we could have a conversation or talk with staff offline about what the budget that should come from is. But we have vacancy savings. It's a one-time expense. We've had conversations about those kinds of dollars in the past. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. And the one thing I wanted to ask is maybe this is you can ask when you come up is so AC Transit owns the pole and then we'll own the seats and then we share the maintenance cost. Was that your understanding?
We would cover the maintenance costs for the benches. So just for the public's knowledge, there are bus shelters and this is for bus benches, and the shelters are managed by AC Transit, and we pay for a little bit of that through an advertising deal that we worked out with them. The benches we would maintain ourselves, and part of this referral is looking for alternative funding sources for that maintenance. Whether we're paying for that out of pocket, just as a service we provide for the city, like our roads and our streets, or we're partnering with organizations like the Rotary Club to say, hey, sponsor this bench for the year, sponsor its maintenance, and maybe we install something on that bench, because each bench will be city property. The pole and the shelters itself belong to AC Transit.
The poles, okay.
So there's a lot of different options.
Okay. But just to be clear, so this is a pilot project for 5, maybe 10 benches, right? Just like the jump seat semi benches, right? But then in the further recommendation, are you also asking people to look at shelters in the future? I like, because there was word shelters and benches were used.
So this is only about benches and about installing benches across the board. In the future, we can have conversations, to Councilmember Andrews' point, about installing trees in certain locations that we think are appropriate, and maybe working with AC Transit to install more shelters and talking about that cost. So we're just building slowly. This is just for the benches. We'll see where it's working, and then we can add more to the ones we think really deserve more investment.
Yeah. And that was, I just want to be clear, because some of the community comments I got, because the words shelters, I think, were used, or stops or something, a little bit interchangeably somewhere, that I think, okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council member questions or comments? Okay, Director McCallie.
I'll be brief because it's late in the hour. Again, evening, Mayor and council members. Again, I'm Murphy McCauley. I represent AC Transit on the board, Ward 4, which includes parts of Hayward. I'm here also representing my colleague, Director Shaw, who also represents a part of Hayward as well. She would love to be here. Unfortunately, well, the good news is that she actually is coming back from a conference where AC Transit was awarded the outstanding public transit agency in the country. So, so we're pretty excited about that. First off, Councilman Syrup took most of my comments, so I don't have much to say other than the fact that, as you know, we provide the bus service and the cities provide control of the right-of-way. And so therefore, it's really important for us to work together to make the rider experience as best that we can make it. And this is a perfect example of that, what's being proposed right now. To answer your question, me personally, we encourage cities to try to create designs that's consistent with the flavor of their communities. I mean, if you look at what Emeryville has done, you look at what Dublin has done and what some other cities around the country have done, where they've actually tried to fashion their shelters and benches and what have you to be a part of the fabric of the community. And so we would actually encourage that. So there's not there's no disconnect there. So with that in mind, I would just say that we're happy to work with Hayward, the city of Hayward in this endeavor. And again, because our goal is to try to provide as best service as possible to the community and improve the rider experience. So I just want to thank Councilman Syrup and Zamenhof in coming up with this idea and promoting it. And we're just happy to work with you. Thank you.
All right, next we have Robert Del Rosario.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Good evening, Robert Del Rosario, Director of Service Development and Planning for AC Transit. I'm here also to speak in favor of the council referral. The bus bench is a relatively low cost but effective solution for improving bus stops. So we really appreciate this initiative. In 2022, our AC Transit Board of Directors adopted a bus stop furniture guideline, which provides guidance on street furniture design, including the placement of bus benches with a focus on equity and need. And this is a document that served as part of the basis for the council referral. So we look forward to collaborating with city staff on first assessing the 363 bus stops in the city to determine which stops are appropriate for bus benches. And we'll do this with guidance from our guidelines. And then we appreciate the proposed contribution from the city to start the efforts. As Director McCauley said, because AC Transit does not own the right-of-way, we do turn to local jurisdictions to initiate and maintain bus bench programs. A number of cities have successful programs, and we're excited for the city to potentially be added to that list. We strongly support the proposed approach in the council referral to initiating a program, and we'll work with the city on each proposed step to ensure success, beginning with the assessment and continuing on to the pilot installations, and then the ensuing findings and analysis. We look forward to working with the council and staff on this promising and effective program. And finally, I also want to give a special thank you to Councilmember Syrup and Councilmember Zamenhof, who are both members of the AC Transit Hayward Interagency Liaison Committee, for championing this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Guernsey.
Okay. I've ridden these buses since I've been in junior high school. I've enjoyed them and everything else since I've become disabled. And in Hayward, I have not found the AC Transit bus drivers friendly or nice in any way, helpful to me or people that are with me with disabilities getting on the buses. I have seen my friend stand out in the morning trying to get the bus to go to work at Chabot College. She has a disability, and she, for years, you know, every couple weeks, she'd be passed over. You put in a complaint. Oh, I didn't see anybody at the bus stop. I didn't see anybody there. Trees in Hayward are not ADA friendly. Your landscape department plants things that people are allergic to. those trees on Mission Boulevard drop little things that drop out of the trees. They get caught in my wheels. I can't go over them. I can't go around them. So, you know, to get out to the bus, I like trees. I love trees. I wish we had more trees and didn't keep digging them up or killing them up at Ruby Meadows. But the trees that we have planted are not ADA friendly. So to put them around a bus stop for your seniors, I've tripped on them, I've slipped on them, let alone caught in the wheels. It's not right. I have been to AC Transit meetings with a staff member, a student assistant, and other people trying to get buses at Chabot College. When AC Transit is canceling bus rides, they canceled bus rides for South Hayward, which left 6 students, disabled students also, a couple of them, from being able to go to Chabot College. And they finally, you know, they did some stuff online and I haven't seen them in years. And we argued and argued, we begged, we did things. So I have not found AC Transit to be friendly to Hayward in any way. I don't know what to do about it except to stand here and work with you guys. Buses, I agree. It gets cars off the road and it does make it sometimes easier for me. At least, you know, I'm only walking 2 blocks and not 8 blocks to where I need to go. But we have to think about what else is going on and how many people. And when you have drivers who get upset that they have to get out of their seat to hook up a wheelchair on the bus, that's their job.
Ms. Guernsey.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. And before I go to Councilmember Syrup, I do have a speaker here online, and that's Diane Castleberry from AC Transit. I guess Director McCauley, you lined up the A team to call in tonight.
Hi, thank you very much, Mayor Salinas and City Council members. I think because of the last comments, I wanted to make one note that we are going to be coming. Thank you to the city. We will be coming to your city council on November 7th to give a presentation on our Realign project. And we're also presenting a kind of full presentation to our board on November 1st. And those will be opportunities to for our project where we are going to be reviewing and updating our bus network so we can better serve the community. And so in that meeting or those meetings, we will be presenting a couple of draft scenarios based on surveys that we conducted earlier in the year, as well as some studies that we did to look at existing conditions and to kind of can't speak right now, to develop some scenarios for you to consider. So we will be coming to your council on November 7th, and our board will be meeting on November 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Castleberry. Let's see. We have one last caller is Tom Ferreira.
Hi, Hayward City Council and Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it's Tom Ferrer with Hayward Concerned Citizens. I was curious about the bus stop, the bus seats. Are they going to be flat, or is it going to be like AC Transit bus stop seats where they have the metal poles that help people push themselves up, or an individual seating kind of thing, or is it all going to be flat? Thank you.
Thank you. And then, I'm going to now pass this over to Councilmember Syrup, who apparently, according to his research, has now become our dais staff on bus stop benches.
I wanted to make sure I came prepared. I'm reporting back that I'm doing my job on this ILC
Well,
committee.
and if you're talking to Mayor Bowders, then, you know, I would hope you know a thing or two about
you
a
like that?
bench.
I got that college.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
Just to answer some questions really quickly, Peggy, thank you for sharing your story. You know, I understand that it might not feel like the right place or time to say or express that, but you have folks that are representing AC Transit in the room, and I know that they heard you too. And I hope that our directors take that to heart and do a better job at serving our Hayward residents, especially our seniors and those facing disabilities. So thank you. And part of this referral is to make it easier for folks that are experiencing disabilities and our seniors to take the bus. So I hope that you see that this proposal is in line with that. And then to Mr. Ferreira online, the way these seats are designed, and you can see a link to them in the staff report, is that there's no room for folks to lay down on them. What I'm hoping is that they're either installed with on both sides of the pole, being a seat on both sides, or there's small with a small rung in the middle with 2 seats too. And I'm hoping that for this pilot, we're not just getting single seats, we're getting ones with 2 seats. But either way, these are not places where people will be able to sleep. I understand it's a concern for a number of our residents. This is really just to improve the ridership experience. And then lastly, I just want to say, it's I know that the jump to 10 might feel like a surprise, but again, it's only $60,000. We approved $10 million capital improvement budgets. We're talking about putting in real infrastructure for our community in the places that need them the most right now. So I'm hoping that we can just have a little bit of courage here. I don't think it's going to break the bank. We approve much more expensive stuff on a more regular basis. And so with that, I would like to move the item with the amendment.
A vote would be helpful. A vote would be helpful, please.
Thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you. Moved by Councilmember Syrup, seconded by Councilmember Zermeño, and
with the amendment that it's 10 seats.
Oh yeah, moved with the amendment that we're going to put in 10 seats, not 5, because 10 is better. And can I add an amendment where can we all the buses, the bus seats in the buses going through Hayward, can we make them leather captain's chairs, Director? Or is that like a hard no?
We'll look into it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Like, as long as I have some hope, as long as I got some hope. And if there is no further questions or comment, Madam City Clerk, you can go ahead and take the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Yes, and I just want to express my appreciation to Councilmember Syrup and Zermeño for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Goldstein.
Yes, good job, fellas.
Thank you. Councilmember Roach.
Yes, and I also want to express my appreciation to our council members for bringing this forward. I'm sort of excited to see what this looks like because so many of those poles out there look very stark and, it's sort of sad for people to just have to stand next to it. So to see a little bit of comfort out there in the bus stops, I think might be really interesting to watch, see how it improves ridership. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Syrup.
Yes, and I want to thank my council colleagues for their support on this initiative, and thank you, Councilmember Zermeño.
Thank you. Councilmember Zermeño.
Yes, for Mom Earth, because it'll be good for reducing our carbon footprint.
Thank you. Mayor Salinas.
I'm voting yes for one reason and one reason only. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be with Mayor Bowders. And so I don't want to be across the table from him. And but yes, absolutely. And good job, you guys. So it looks like it unanimously passes. Thank you. Next is our adjournment, and our next meeting is October 17th, 2023. Have a good evening, have a great weekend, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Meeting adjourned.